This is a story about a teenager Kageyama Shigeo, nicknamed Mob. He has incredible, supernatural psychic powers. However, he is still a boy who is in 8th grade at a school called Salt in the fictional town of Seasoning. He also has a Mob breakdown scale, which depends on his emotions. And when the scale reaches 100%, Mob's strength soars to incredible heights, and he turns into a super psycho Mob. In his free time, Mob works for Reagan, a man who pretends to be a psychic. However, Reagan does not have supernatural abilities, but he has a developed communication skill, and therefore everyone believes him. Reagan is also Mob's mentor. Reagan owns a company called Ghost Consulting and the like. He solves most of the problems of his clients with ordinary skills or just persuasion, but when he meets real spirits, he immediately summons the Mob. In one of the first scenes, we are shown his clients Hanaka and Tara, who came to Reagan for relatively cheap psychic help. Together with Reagan, they go to their house, where they meet an evil spirit, the destroyer of ceilings. Reagan tries to exorcise the spirit with ordinary salt, but nothing comes of it. Then he summons Mob, who exorcises this spirit with one movement. Shigeo accidentally bends a spoon during dinner, for which his mother begins to scold him. However, his father reassures her. And also there, Moba was supported by Ritsu's brother, who straightened the spoon and said that Shigeo could always rely on him. Mob disruption scale, 25%. After that, we are shown how Mob dreams about the girl Tsubomi-chan at school, and also how he experiences school problems, since he is not strong either in school or in sports. Next, Mob receives a call from Regan's teacher, who asks him to come to the station. There, Regan talks about the Haneda Tunnel, where about 20 people died 30 years ago. Recently, there have been several disappearances, and with the money of local residents, they need to solve this problem. They enter a tunnel, where Mob felt the aura of a strong spirit, and he also sensed a whole bunch of other spirits that surrounded them. Spirits begin to attack, but Mob easily melts them all. Meanwhile, Regan encounters the spirit leader who attacks Regan, but is protected by Mob, and then begins to melt the leader. However, he abruptly stops and decides to listen to the spirit. The leader tells about the terrible spirit that controlled them. After Mob decides to find this spirit since he still feels his strong aura. Next, the Mob finds a spirit that immediately swallows it. However, Mob easily melts him from the inside. As a result, they released all the spirits that died 30 years ago. It turns out that they all went to another world from the fact that their transport slipped on a banana peel. Mob's breakdown scale is 27%. The next day at work, Mob contemplates what he should do after school instead of working for an exorcist. However, Regan says there's nothing better than messing around after school working for him. Next, we are shown a club of telepaths, one of whose members leaves the club, because of which a member of the study council appears and announces the dissolution of this club. To keep the club, members need to bring a statement with the names of at least 5 people before Friday evening. Members of the club meet Mob by chance, tell him about the telepathy club. Mob decides to consult with the teacher about joining the club. Regan offers him to refuse, as the worker will leave him. As a result, Mob decides to think. Then Mob and Regan go to the Women's Academy, where clients are waiting for them on the roof. For cover, they dress up as girls. However, at the entrance they are exposed by security. Regan is called a pervert and is not allowed in, but Mob is allowed through without any problems. Mob finds clients, high school students. They talk about a poltergeist that lives in their academy, and about the fact that the academy administration does not believe in all this, which is why they turn to Regan's company. Then Mob finds a ghost, he blocks it in the gym. It turns out that this is the evil spirit Sniffer, who immediately attacks the Mob. However, Mob copes with it without problems. The next day, Mob decided to join the club of telepaths. However, the vice president appears and hands over the premises to the Body Development Club. The head of the Telepaths Club, Kurata, says that they have already found the 5th one, and this is Mob. The vice president begins to ask Mob about his past and why he wants to join this club, and in every possible way tries to dissuade him. And Mob at this time thinks about Tsubomi-chan and how he can change physically, so he decides to join the Body Development Club. It turns out that Mob thought that if he had a beautiful body, he would immediately become attractive to girls. However, his stamina is at 0, so he passes out during training. Musashi brings Mob to the room of the now Body Development Club, where the Telepaths Club also practices by permission. Mob comes to his senses and tells why he joined the Body Development Club. After Kurata gives him advice that a pumped-up body will not change anything in him, but if he learns to read the minds of girls, then this is a real bomb. Next, Mob meets the sectarian Lolo. The founder of the sect is Yamaki-san. There he meets newcomers, Mizata, his classmate, a journalist, and some man. After Dimples-san appears on the scene, they put a Lolo mask on the man, causing him to smile strangely. After Mizata reveals that she is a school journalist and came to investigate what this sect is doing. However, a mask is also thrown over her, and she also begins to smile against her will. After the mask is put on Mob, but the mask does not work, and Mob says he's going to leave. Dimples stops him and invites Mob to play peepers against 3 of his best players. Mob agrees and easily defeats everyone. Dimples himself decides to participate, but he cheats. For this, Mob removes hypnosis and smiles from everyone. After Dimple, he tries to make Mob laugh, causing Mob's emotions to intensify. Mob's breakdown scale is 92%. As a result, it turns out that Dimples was a spirit at all. The Mob asks the spirit to show its true power. Mob's disruption scale is 100%. Dimples starts to attack, but Mob damages his limbs and eventually destroys this spirit and saves everyone from the influence of the Lolo sect. Next, we are shown a skirmish between the School of Salt and the School of Black Vinegar, where the demon Tengu from the School of Salt smashes his opponents. However, the Gray Eminence appears, Hanazawa Teruku from the Vinegar School, and easily defeats Tengu and his guys. Meanwhile, Mob meets the weakened spirit of Dimples at home, who says that he wants to become the ruler of this world, and for this he needs to unite with Mob. However, Mob has other plans. He suggests simply melting the Dimples. Then the spirit begins to put pressure on Pity, and the good Mob decides to discuss the destruction with the teacher. The Mob goes to Raiden and tells him about Dimples' clinging spirit. However, Regan could not even see this spirit, and therefore told Mob to deal with this negligibly weak spirit himself. Meanwhile, Tengu came to the Body Development Club for help in order to defeat Black Vinegar with the help of athletes. However, the athletes refused him. The Tengu then spotted Mob and came up with a plan. He decides to write 2 letters, one to give to Mob, where a love letter is written on behalf of the girl, and the other to send to Black Vinegar with the coordinates of the place for a showdown. His goal is to headbutt the Body Development Club through the lure of Mob and his Black Vinegar nemesis. Further, Black Vinegar captures Mob and sends a letter to Tengu, where he reports that Mob is being held hostage. In return, Tang plants the letter at the Body Development Club. As a result, the athletes go to rescue Mob. Meanwhile, Dimples invites the bound Mob to turn on his power and attack everyone. However, Mob refuses as he doesn't want to use his power against humans. Athletes arrive at the Vinegar School, defeat a dozen students of Vinegar, and insist that their teammate be brought to them. However, Mob himself goes out to them without any problems, and the athletes, together with Mob, go back. The Vinegar students try to stop them, but the athletes knock them out. Then the Gray Eminence Teruku appears, who removes Edan from the post of leader of the Vinegar. After that, Teruku knocks out the athletes, and also demolishes the appeared Tengu with one blow. He then switches to the bound Mob, who didn't like that Teruku was using psychics against people. The Mob throws off the ropes, and Teruku offers to figure out which of them is in charge here. He attacks Mob, but he defends himself with a shield. After that, Teruku attacks with his telekinesis and throws Mob back a couple of tens of meters. However, even after this, Mob refuses to use his power against humans. Dimples offers to stop this fight, as Mob might break loose. But Teruku is just erasing Dimples. Mob disruption scale, 50%. Further, Teruku decides to show all his power. He starts throwing Mob against the walls, throws a monument at him, and then takes out knives from the cabinet and directs them at Mob. However, Mob uses a powerful technique and shaves the top of Taruk's head. For this, Teruka promises to destroy Mob. He creates a sword, and then recognizes Mob as his enemy. Teruku attacks with all his might. He asks Mobo to attack him back. However, in response, Mob tells him that if his power, which he is so proud of, is taken away from Teruku, he will become the same ordinary person as Mob, and like millions of other people. After that, Teruku grabs Mob, but without using his power, because of which the mob bar begins to increase dramatically. Next, the mob loses consciousness and there is a breakdown of the mob's power. He grabs Teruku and throws him back, then sucks all the power out of him and sends Teruku and the floor of the school into the sky. After Mob wakes up, he apologizes to Teruku for what he did. The vinegar students, seeing what happened to their gray cardinal, run away screaming, and the athletes offer Mob to return to school. Mob also tries to find the spirit of Dimples, but to no avail. Ritsu's brother learns from the news about what happened near the black vinegar school. Ritsu understands but does not want to believe that his brother Shigeo did it. At school, Tengu meets Mob and asks him to forgive him for Mob being kidnapped back then because of him. However, it looks like the Tengu is swearing at Mob. At least that's what Ritsu, who was watching from the side, thought. Next, Hirata asks Mob out on a date as part of her plan to find other psychics for the club. They go to a crowded place where, sitting on a bench, they try to find a psychic. There, Mob accidentally sensed an adult psychic with a disgusting aura. Meanwhile, a student council meeting is held, where Ritsu asks for support in creating a peaceful environment at the school. On the way home, Ritsu meets the head of the Awakening Lab, Mitsuri-san, who thinks that Ritsu is a mob. Mitsuri gives him a business card and suggests that he think about strengthening his power with the help of the Awakening Lab. Ritsu meets the vice president of the study council, Takugawa, who tells him to stop imitating his brother. With that said, Ritsu decides to go to the Awakening Lab where he meets Mitsuri-san and a bunch of microbiologists and neuroengineers who are doing research on people with psychic abilities. Psychics present in the laboratory have telekinesis and telepathy and have 1% of this power. After Mitsuru says that he does not have any abilities, but he wants to get them, which is why he created this laboratory. Ritsu decides to join the lab as he wants to get a new power too. The next morning, we are shown a conversation between Ritsu and President Shinji, who proposes a purge and removal of all trash from the school. And he wants to start with Onigawara Tengu, the main scum of this school. He suggests framing the Tengu with broken recorders, but Ritsu says that's not what he meant at the meeting. However, Shinji insists that Ritsu help him. The girls then discover that all of their recorders are broken. Tengu appears, Ritsu opens his desk and finds pieces of recorders. Shinji says that the pervert Tengu did it all. And for even more credibility, Ritsu also planted evidence in the Tengu's bag. In general, the herd feeling works, and the whole class considers Tengu a pervert. Ritsu in the lab is angry that he still doesn't have any power. He throws the spoon away and leaves the lab. However, it turns out that Ritsu's emotions allowed him to twist the spoon he threw. On the way home, Ritsu meets Regan, who is on a mission, and then meets Dimple's rebellious spirit. He takes the spirit for a creepy ball and decides to exorcise it. However, Dimples claims to be Mob's friend and mentor, and he also proposes a partnership with Ritsu since his power has just awakened. Dimples then asks Ritsu to bend some spoons and forks. However, Ritsu is unable to bend even the first spoon. He became very angry, because of which he bent all the spoons at once. Dimples says that he is ready to help Ritsu gain strength comparable to his brother's, but in reality, Dimples wants to take over Ritsu's body. Meanwhile, the rumor that Mob had defeated the Black Vinegar School's eminence Grise spread at the speed of light, and in other schools, Moba was nicknamed the White Death. A whole bunch of leaders from other schools want to find and fight the White Death. Meanwhile, at Seoul School, Shinji and Ritsu became celebrities. They also framed Yamazaki's student for stealing the women's sportswear. Shinji felt great about doing these things, and Ritsu was beating himself up for doing it. Dimples trains abilities with Ritsu at home, and it turns out that the immoral state and guilt feed Ritsu's strength. After Ritsu comes back to the Awakening Lab, he spins a few spoons in front of Mitsuri-san and even offers to do the same with his car. On the way from there, Ritsu is attacked by those they framed at school. However, he and Dimples easily knock them out. Afterwards, Teruku appears in a giant wig and tells Ritsu not to put his strength first, but Ritsu decides to face off with Teruku. A wind appears and blows off Teruku's wig, causing their fight to be called off. The next day at school, we are shown a conversation between Shinji and Ritsu about their popularity. After that, the leader of the Beansaw School, Kinzaki-san, arrives at the school, but Ritsu deals with him with one blow. On the way home, Shinji is met by Kinzaki's classmates, who mistake him for the White Death and attack him. The next day, Shinji tells Ritsu that it's time for them to get out of business. However, Ritsu says that Shinji is reaping the fruits of what he himself has sown. Then at home, Shinji closes in his room, but Ritsu comes to him and says that now the school is really cleared of that rabble like Shinji. On the way home, Ritsu fights some of the leaders of the other schools. They connect with Dimple's spirit and knock everyone out. All of this is being watched by Teruka, who decides to inform Mob about it. And also on the roof is Kuyama. This is the man with a disgusting aura, whose goal is to capture Mob. Mob himself appears, whom Teruku called. Mob is surprised that his brother defeated all these people. Then Ritsu confessed to his brother that he always tried to get the same power as his, and the feeling of inferiority rotted him. He invites his brother to fight him, and at this time Dimples quietly runs away. However, Mob decides to apologize for his younger brother to the defeated people. Meanwhile, Kuyama, who was watching all this, receives an order from the Awakening Laboratory captured by Saburai, where he killed everyone. Kuyama urgently needs to capture Shigeo, and according to the lab, Shigeo's profile contains a photo of Ritsu, so Kuyama targeted Ritsu, thinking it was Shigeo. He grabs Ritsu and attacks him on the ground. Further, Kuyama again knocks out the school children, grabs Ritsu, and is about to leave. He is stopped by Mob, but Kuyama throws his head into the wall. Then Mob comes to his senses again, catches up with Kuyama, and slams him into the ground. Kuyama decides to punish the young psychics and attacks with a telekinetic coil. The Mob puts up a shield, but this does not save them, and Kuyama breaks through it. Ritsu tries to save his brother and surrenders to Kuyama, but he throws Ritsu on the ground. Mob's disruption scale is 100%. The Mob grabs Kuyama by the head and starts to attack him against the walls, and then throws him into the building. Kuyama then attacks with an energy bomb. However, Mob did not even feel this blow. Then the cunning Kuyama splashed Moby with gas in the face, causing him to lose consciousness. But Mob gets up abruptly, but he is already unconscious. Kuyama grabs Ritsu and flees. When Mob wakes up, he finds himself in Taruk's apartment. Teruka tells about the Claw. These are the ones who kidnapped Ritsu. He warns that they are very strong, and that Shigeo can die if he goes to them. Dimples talks about the Awakening Lab, where they find Mitsuri-san. It turns out that he is not involved in Ritsu's kidnapping. However, he confirmed that it was more likely that Ritsu was kidnapped instead of Shigeo, as Talon was taking information from the lab's base. At the Claw base, Kuyama talks about the battle with Mobo. Terada appears, takes an interest in Mobo, and sets out to find him. Terada quickly finds Mob and Teruku. However, something went wrong. Mob and Teruku start interrogating Terada with a bucket of water, and he tells them about the location of the Claw base, as well as about their leaders. Meanwhile, a Talon executive meeting is held, where the head of the Ashibura division talks about the fact that their boss is going to come to Japan next month. He plans to take one or more Scar Chiefs from the 7th Division to the main headquarters. At this time, in the dungeon, Mudo, one of the Scars, came to the new captives. He summons the younger Shiratori and asks him to show all the power he possesses in 10 seconds. However, the younger does not show anything, for which Mudo supposedly destroys him. And then he says that tomorrow everyone should show him all their strength. Then Ritsu offers to think of a way for them to escape. Shiratori Sr. reports that his brother is alive, as they communicate with him through telepathy. After that, they use a spoon to open the lock, but the teachers stand in their way. Ritsu comes out of the cage and knocks them out. Ritsu then offers to find Shiratori's brother using Kurisaki's intuition. Meanwhile, Teruku, Mob, and Dimples, along with the captured Terada, arrive at the 7th Division's base. Terada escapes, and then with the help of air lashes attacks Mob and Teruku, since he cannot allow them to reach the base, because his reputation depends on it. As a result, Teruku grabs Terada, and Mob turns him off with trees. Teruku and Mob take out the guards at the entrance, and Dimples captures one of the guards. After they enter the base, they catch 2 members of the Claw, and through them they find out where the hostages are. Our guys are also getting scars, and Kuyama volunteers to deal with them. He appears in front of our trio and immediately attacks. However, Mob tensed up a little, left Kuyama against the wall, and knocked him out. After that, the Scars decide to attack the intruders in teams, and they also decide to use the Awakened Ones. Next, Mob, Teruku, and Dimples decide to split up. Dimples first encounters a bunch of Awakeneds, and after him finds Matsua's Scar. Dimples tries to run away from him, but Matsua captures him with the help of his 4 evil spirits. Meanwhile, Teruku defeats a bunch of awakened beings he interrogates. After that, he is attacked by Miyagawa's Scar, the owner of a strong pyrokinesis. He attacks Teruku with fire, but he directs all the fire back and burns Miyagawa. Then Sakurai Muraki appears and turns off Teruku. Meanwhile, Mob is attacked by Mukai's Scar, a puppeteer, and Tsuchi's Scar, an athlete. Mob easily destroys Mukai dolls. Tsuchi then attacks and starts attacking Mob with great speed. Because of this, Mob even shed a tear, as he is a gentleman, and it is unpleasant for him to attack a woman. However, he still knocks her out easily. He is then attacked by Tekeuchi's Scar, who also flies off without a chance. Meanwhile, Ritsu and the team sneak into the caregiver's room and quietly try to rescue the younger Shiratori, only to be spotted. But Ginsen, one of the educators, stops everyone and releases the hostages without a fight. They are then attacked by several Awakened Ones, whom Ritsu easily defeats. However, Suzuki-kun appears, whom Ritsu decides to fight alone, but loses. After Ritsu finds Mob and promises to avenge him, Mob's breakdown scale is 92%. Then Mewtwo appears, who uses Suggestion, because of which Mob breaks down and knocks out Mewtwo, and then turns off himself. Further, the bound Shigeo and Ritsu are delivered to the bound Teruku, as well as the captured Dimples. After Mob comes to his senses and hugs Ritsu, it turns out that they are all closed in a sealed room where their abilities do not work. Meanwhile, the leaders of Division 7 discuss what to do with the captured psychics. Suzuki intervenes and states that all the prisoners will be taken to the command headquarters. However, Sakurai begins to threaten Suzuki for this insolence. Meanwhile, Regan drives up to the 7th Division's base to find Shigeo. He approaches the base, where he encounters a bunch of Awakened Ones. Regan says he came to talk to his subordinate. The Awakened Ones thought it was the boss himself. Commanders are also informed of the arrival of this boss. Then Regan and a bunch of awakened people enter the room where our heroes are imprisoned. Regan asks that Mob and the others be released, but Ishiguro and several Scars appear on their way. Ishiguro informs everyone that this is not a boss and immediately attacks Regan, but everyone is protected by Mob. Ishiguro begins to fight Mob, where he pulls Mob to the ground. However, Regan knocks out Ishiguro with a head kick. After Raiden decides to defeat opponents with hypnosis, he moves closer and knocks out one of the Scars with one punch. However, Raiden's plan failed. The villains decided to show all their power. Ishiguro throws his black balls of gravity, which begin to tighten everything around. As a result, the balls demolish most of the Claw's base. Scars decide to launch an attack. Muraki creates copies and uses them to attack. Then Sakurai will join the attack, with whom Teruka begins to fight. Matsua attacks with his spirits, but Mob easily melts his spirits. Then Matsua summons the spirit Sugar. However, Mob's breakdown bar reaches its limit. Mob decides to use all his powers, but Raiden stops him and tells him not to do it. In the next moment, Sakurai hurts Raiden's back and Raiden falls to the ground. In Raiden's mind, memories of the first meeting with Mob begin to emerge, where Mob came to Raiden and he gave advice for Mob to perceive his psychic power as something ordinary. Regan, seeing Mob's abilities, realized that he had found walking gold. Then Raiden suddenly stands up, as if nothing had happened. He says that it feels like Sakurai's katana is made of plastic. Sakurai says that for these words, he will hurt Regan's head. He strikes, but there is no scratch on Regan's neck. Raiden then breaks his katana with his bare hands. Raiden then takes down Sugar with one blow, after which he erases all copies of Muraki with one blow. Ishiguro says that he did not even think that there are such powerful psychics in our world. He releases a whole bunch of his black gravity balls. However, Raiden easily blows away all of Ishiguro's balls. It turns out that Mob's explosive power at the moment when he was stopped by Regan temporarily passed to him. As a result, Raiden Arataka turned into a Super Psycho Regan level 1000. Then Ishiguro decides to attack in close combat. He hits Regan in several tons. However, Regan did not even feel these blows. As a result, Reigen throws Ishiguro against the wall with one blow and removes his gas mask. Reigen is then attacked by Sakurai, who shoots in with a pneumatic gun. However, Reigen easily deflects the shot. Sakurai then tries to put Raiden to sleep with the cursed aerosol, but Raiden confiscates the aerosol. After Reigen gives a lecture that it does not matter who you are, a psychic or not, because you are still an ordinary person. Then Ishiguro appears again and says that they are not people, but they are the highest form of life. And then he creates a giant black gravity ball. However, Suzuki knocks him back with a kick and then slams Ishiguro into the ground. Suzuki says he was sent here to inspect the 7th Division, and this unit is now disbanded, after which it simply disappears. Next, Matsuo appears and releases his best creation, the spirit of Zephyrinka. However, Dimples flies out of there instead and knocks out Matsuo with a punch. It turns out that in captivity, Matsuo ate all the other spirits and regained his power. After everything that happened, everything returns to normal rhythm. Mob continues to dream about Tsubomi-chan, while Ritsu and Shinji are about to apologize to everyone they set up. They start with the Tengu, but the Tengu no longer cares about what happened then. After that, a running mob appears, which once again loses consciousness. Meanwhile, at the Awakening Lab, Teruku asked Mitsuru to gather all of his psychics. Teruku wants to take on the development of their strength and prepare for self-defense against Talon. Dimples came to Reigen to inform him that Shigeo had anemia and could not help with the exorcism. Reigen decides to enlist Dimples to help him exorcise the spirits. Meanwhile, Suzuki is talking to Talon's boss. It turns out that this is his father. Suzuki tells his dad to urgently come to Japan, and the boss replied that he would be there soon. If you want to continue, then write about it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like and press the bell so as not to miss new videos. AniMap was with you. Bye everyone.